congratulations, you're here at FrightFest. This story starts with you because you're only the lead actor, but you wrote the story. So what inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many experiences. I've talked a lot about my web series, Starvival. That was a huge influence for this story. It's taking odd jobs off the internet and filming them with hidden cameras and blurring people's faces. I did that show for like 6 years on and off. And then, honestly, I listened to a podcast. I was going to make my sex comedy feature. And I listened to this podcast and it said, go write something else, make all your mistakes on that movie, and then go make your baby project. So I wrote this as my go make my mistakes movie and mess it up as much as I want. And then in doing that, I fell in love with it. And then this became my baby project. And then I was like, I don't really care if I make that other movie anymore. Yeah.
Social media, it's obviously, where we've got influencers and YouTubers, there's a lot of competition out there. What was it about that you wanted, I suppose, to cast a light on?
I wanted to write something that really treads the line around going too far in terms of vloggers and how we use social media. It's kind of that tipping point when you take it one step too far. I really wanted this main character to have that internal debate of what that feels like and the repercussions of that. So that was a big part of it. And then there's just, generally speaking, the dangers of the internet, of meeting people online, and then how sexual attraction plays into that, and how all of a sudden when there is sexual attraction, we're much more willing to put ourselves out there and put ourselves into very dangerous situations because of our lust and erotic desires.
And when put it in a horror genre as well, then I imagine that just allows your imagination to just really push the boundaries.
Oh, totally. I think that's why I love horror so much, is that you don't, I mean, I guess with any genre too, you don't really know where it's going to go. But I think part of my job as a writer is to keep people on edge and take them for the ride and not have it be predictable so that we don't know what's coming next.
As an actor, how easy has it been for you? You've written the character, you know her inside out, you know her backstory. So what was it like kind of bringing her to life, I suppose, and off the page?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what I did as my preparation, because I also produced the film with Sylvia and Michael and wicked strong producer team. I stepped down as a producer 30 days before we went into production. And so that was so I could take 1 month fully focused on the character. And I went off the grid. I texted everyone I knew and said, I'm not going to be available for the next month, so don't try to reach me. And then I dove into the social media world. I created an alias name, and I just spent every day as how I thought the character would, just to get that back into my system, because I had taken a 2-year break. So it was really interesting to go back into that world. But it was fun, yeah.
It sounds and being in control of your own destiny, writing your own material that you're then performing in. How important is that for you as an actor to be able to have control of your storytelling?
I think it's the most important thing that we can do as an actor, because otherwise you are at the disposal of your agent's call and whoever else has a project. So I've always made that to be my number one priority in terms of developing projects, to create a platform to act in. And it's often the reason why I'm able to act. So.
Tell us how you became attached to the project, really, and what attracted you.
Yeah, so I was in New York City. I've made most of my films there, and I have a mentor named John Gallagher, and one day he sends me an email and says, I have just the right project for you. It's funded, it's ready to go, you're going to be shooting in 6 weeks. It's written by this girl, Dani Barker. I was like, okay, well, sounds great. What's she done? I don't know that she's done much yet. She had done a YouTube series. And so I was like, great, I'll read the script. And so I read it, and I saw a lot in it that I could really chew on. You know, great female protagonist, great male antagonist, the kind of dichotomy between them, the fighting, and the fact that the female doesn't just sit down and get tormented and taken by the guy was important to me also. And then just talking with Dani and realizing that we could collaborate. She didn't know me as a director, so she had to have some trust there. And I didn't know her as an actress, and I'm thinking, oh, my first narrative feature, if the lead sucks, I'm really screwed. But I knew she would. I knew she'd bring it, and she did, and she does.
And the story, it's really contemporary, where it's set in the world around social media, and we know how it is a dangerous environment. Was it because it's such a contemporary theme? Was that attractive to you as well?
Absolutely. I spent like over a year just trying to look for reasons. I read so many scripts for like 3 or 4 years. I tried to get one script, lost it, and then this came around, and I really wanted something right now. We all do. And it hardly ever hits, but this one seems to be kind of hitting. It's hitting the nerves because it's so present. I mean, the drama and the suspense in this film, you could almost think like, is that happening right now? Could that be happening? Yeah, I think it kind of could.
Well, because there's so many, sometimes the truth is weirder than fiction, isn't it? You know?
It is, yeah. I mean, who would have thought we'd be here even 10 years ago? I mean, I can remember like the invention of, like the cell phone and then getting smaller and smaller. And it all is, I think it's truly having an impact on humans, like a shift. I think in future years, we will look back, and they always say, the invention of the wheel. And, but I think the invention of portable cell phones and social media is having a shift in the human condition and the human being and the human consciousness.
I think the young are definitely more reliant on it than maybe a generation.
Quick. You want instant gratification. You don't have to learn, you don't have to know how to use a card catalog. You don't have to know how to search for answers, because to search for an answer, you have to think about how the logic behind that. And now everything is so immediate. And so we get used to that quickness. And it's a patience thing. I remember, you'd have to go to the library. The library might not be open. They'd have to read the darn book. And now it's just like, you want to know who did this. When was this, incident? And yeah.
It definitely is an interesting, and horror is such an interesting genre to be able to go on that journey and navigate your way through the psychology of it, and potentially the extremities that horror allows, that kind of breaks the barriers a little bit. Was that something that, was enticing for you too?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I don't know anybody that's not touched by social media. Even if they don't use it, their kids are at the dinner table and their heads are in it, or they're getting addicted to games. I know a lot of kids addicted. It all comes from that kind of like tuning out and tuning in to like a fake other existence. So yeah, I thought putting that in your face and having you, because you understand what that is, you might join her on the journey a little bit more.
So tell us about the film and what attracted you really.
The film, Follow Her, is a psychological social media film. It's very relevant today, basically questioning how far would you go to become famous, like to be a social media star. That's what really attracted to me. When I first read the script, I knew that it could be done in a practical way for the right budget and also have an audience for it.
Well, what's interesting there as well is because with all these influencers and YouTubers, it makes this a very contemporary and very relevant story, doesn't it?
Without question. Again, how far would you go to increase your followers to 1,000, to 5,000, to 1 million? How far would you go to compromise your own integrity, separating who you are, how you started, to what your audience wants you to be, and putting your life in danger to that point? And that's what this film questions. How far would you go?
And yeah, as the producer, it's great. You have to have a story, you have to have a script, of course, but without the producer making it happen and the cogs turning behind the scenes, you haven't got a film. So in an independent world, how tricky has it been to find the financing to get your film off the ground?
It was very tricky. We didn't have all of our financing initially, so we actually had to film in 2 stages. The question was, do we film half the movie with the money we have, or just wait? And the question was, let's not wait. Let's go. We have because in our world, the longer you wait, projects will go away. So we hit the ground running. And we knew that having the first half of the film shot, we could use that to help fund the remaining part of the film, and we were successful in doing that, just by being smart about locations and how we approach the scenes in terms of just my job. Again, behind the scenes was just to make it work on a low budget, but make it feel like a big budget.
Absolutely, and I think as well, would you say that when you're working with a restricted budget, it actually forces creativity because you can't necessarily just throw money at it to fix a problem. You have to really problem solve.
Without question, it's all about problem solving, and I think we made some decisions in terms of just stunts and effects to work around those things, because if you don't do it right and it looks fake, it takes the audience away from the film. We didn't want to lose the audience, so it was very important to pull off all of the gags and all of the tricks in a realistic way that the audience would understand and buy, but also on a budgetary scale. And also, as a producer, I knew, hey, this is going to be a good moment. I'm okay with spending the money here, but also because it's going to help the film overall. It just can't be about, well, we have no money to spend. You have to gauge, well, we didn't budget this much for this, but we're going to go for it because it's going to make the film better, and I'll figure out on the back end what we're going to do to figure out everything else out. Yeah.
And we're at a horror festival. You've obviously made a horror film. What is it about this particular genre that I suppose that audiences just tap into and love and prefer and can happily go on a journey with?
This audience, this genre audience, especially here at FrightFest, is dedicated. They are loyal, they're dedicated. This is not their first festival. I've met so many people who have been here for 10 years, and it just, I can honestly say I am officially a FrightFester, and I would want to come back even if I'm not here to promote a film. I get it. I mean, people love the horror, they love the thrills, they love the blood, they love the guts, they love the subtle things, the caricatures, the visual effects, and you throw that all in together and you have a very passionate audience, and it's been a thrill to meet these folks here at FrightFest.